Last episode, we stuck a new LSD in the rear end of the Falcon. We tested it out by doing some skids at Luddenham Raceway. Then we got a bit cocky at roll racing and found ourselves chopped by Dave, the nacho-munching jerk.
Righto, Benny, well, we put all the bolt-ons on, we took it to roll racing, and man, I got had. So it's probably time for the next step, which is something that I'm probably a little bit nervous about because we did all the bolt-ons, the motor's never been out of this car.
Well, that's about to change.
What are we doing today?
To actually make power, the biggest thing really is to just change the turbo, but obviously that much load on the engine, we're going to have to do some preventative things like valve springs, oil pump gear, and my personal favourite is a Flexplate. I've seen so many of these Flexplates flog out, come loose, break, all sorts of stuff with the tin Flexplate it's the same as the taxi one from an AU. Like, it is literally the same Flexplate. So they're not designed for 500 kilowatts, which hopefully we get to by the end of this.
All right, Flexplate out, I'm not worried, Flexplate, not bad. Oil pump, the whole front's coming off the motor.
Yeah, this engine actually has a couple of oil leaks on the front of it anyway, which are pretty common for this sort of model. So we're going to address all of those oil leaks. We're going to replace the oil pump gear. I'm actually going to make you do the oil pump gear while I'm doing the valve springs to be a bit more efficient. And then we're going to come together and chuck the thing back in the car.
All right, it's going to be a big day. Let's get into
excited.
it.
I've been given the important job of going out to pick up lunch. I'll be back soon to give the boys a hand.
Get the top all apart. I want to get this thing out before lunch.
Yeah, definitely before lunch. Speaking of lunch, where is Richard?
Mate, actually, I seen him an hour ago and it was only pizza. So, you know what? The engine's going to be out before he's gone to the pizza shop and back.
Oh, God. Scotty's just finishing up the last of the wiring on the ZF. On the Fords, the transmission and the engine loom's actually integrated, so in order to pull the engine out, you need to either remove the loom off the box or off of the engine. We've elected to leave it on the engine, so that means pulling it off the box. It's not too crazy, there's like 3 plugs and then a couple of clips along the ZF, so pretty minor in the scheme of things, but looks like it's just about done, so that'll mean we can bolt the transmission back up, undo the last of the bell housing bolts, and then rip it out the top.
Well,
pretty successful morning, Scotty.
Mate, I thought that was going to be a little bit harder than it was, to be honest.
I'm pretty happy with it.
We kind of, no snags as it came out, or one little snag that we had, which was the gearbox breather.
Sneaky gearbox breather being wrapped around the rear loom. One clip to get us out and we were good.
But you definitely had some magic.
It's good fun. Interestingly, it actually looks like the converter's been loose on the Flexplate. See this sort of rusty mark here?
And there's some...
It's actually been vibrating.
Iron filings on that as well.
Yeah, so looks like you've been giving it the herbs. This thing's definitely never been out though, looking at the engine and the way we unbolted everything, it's definitely never been apart, never had the box out, never had the engine out, so it's pretty cool to be the first ones to ruin it.
It's not, we're making it better.
No, it's going to be a good thing. But yeah, you can actually see the Flexplate holes slightly ovalled, just a touch, and that probably explains why they're a bit hard to get those bolts out of the converter too.
The motor's a bit grubby as well as it come out. I didn't really expect it to be this nasty with it. Like, it's got a fair few leaks along the bottom here.
Yeah, just the sealant goes off over time because there's no gaskets in most of this. It's glued together kind of like a motorbike engine.
Oh, right.
So it's all there's like a little half moon seal on the front and the back of the sump, but the timing cover's all just glued together. The sump's just glued together. So over time that sealant breaks down. So we'll clean all that up while we're here and replace all the sealant. We're going to do rear main seal, crank seal, plus obviously the new Flexplate, oil pump gear and valve springs. So a lot of people probably go, why'd you pull it out? But it's actually going to save us time because we've got to do both ends of the engine. If we weren't doing the flex plate, I probably would have done it in the car. But doing an oil pump gear on an FG, it's actually pretty complex. You've got to drop the sump, which means you've got to drop the K-frame, and it's not much time saved than if you just rip the motor out anyway. So
Even that, it'll give me a bit of time to clean up in the bay as well.
yeah, you can do a few little tweaks and
not a huge task. I think that went really, really well.
yeah, it's probably taken us 4 hours, and I've only pulled a couple of FG motors out. Like, there's definitely, I mean, if you're doing this day to day, probably like a 1.5 to 2 hour job, I reckon.
Yeah. And it lets us do this stuff better now that it's out.
Yeah, and the other thing is we can look at stuff better and tweak stuff while we're out. If there's little things we notice while we're here, it's a lot easier to address it now than in 6 months when another leak springs in the car. Like, we can more or less reseal this whole engine. We'll put a new rocker cover gasket on it as well while we're there. It's got a little bit of a weep, and we've got to pull the cover off to do the oil pump and the valve springs anyway. So
No more oil leaks. My driveway, I'm going to have to scrub my driveway now. So one of the reasons we needed to pull the engine out of the car to do this work is because of this little sucker. Not a lot in here. This is the engine's oil pump. So what happens is the crankshaft locates in the middle here and spins around these gears. As the gears spin around, oil pulled up from the sump, or from the oil pickup that's located in the bottom of the sump, pressurized, and then spat out into the engine's oil galleries. We've got an oil relief valve, so a spring along here that sets the max pressure, and that's about it. Pretty simple device. Inside this particular engine, these gears are not very strong. So as you bounce off the rev limiter, these things will hit each other and then they'll eventually shatter. So that's where our billet oil pump gears come in. So we're gonna replace the factory gears with our billet oil pump gears. This is pretty common. This is not just a barra thing. This is a fairly common thing to do in a whole bunch of engines, one of the most popular being the RB. Same sort of problems with the oil pumps. This is the standard equipment on my G6E model. This is a GT3576. It's a smaller size front housing, whereas have a look at this thing. This is our replacement. It's been supplied by GCG turbochargers here in Sydney. This is a GDX 3582 Gen 2. Have a look at the front. Have a look how much air can go through this massive thing compared to this little one. It's got the huge 4-inch front, it's got the billet wheel, and it's got the GCG wastegate on it, meaning that I can adjust our base pressure by adjusting the springs that are in here, and I plan on doing just that. That's why we sent him an hour ago to get pizza.
yeah, I thought if we sent him an hour ago, he'd be here by now.
Seems pretty logical. It's Richard. We should have sent him 2 hours ago.
More pizza.
Guys, I've got the pizza. Are you ready to take the engine out?
Richo, where you been, mate?
Pizza.
And get the engine out?
Yes.
Mate, she's been out, it's been apart, it's been cleaned up, everything's in it, and it's been put back in. You got pizzas.
I got ham pineapple.
Oh, it's been a long day, mate. Ham and pineapple.
What did I do? Okay, so this is the final tune-up of this car.
The final hurrah.
Right, so we've had it on the dyno with the factory ECU.
Elite plug-in, and then we tuned it as a factory car.
Yes, then we did some bolt-on mods, and you tuned it again on the Haltech.
Yep, perfect.
Then I went out to get some pizza, and you...
Did heaps of work, pretty much. So while you did a pizza, remember that, I pulled the whole engine out. Benny came over.
Yes.
We put everything into it.
Yes.
And then we put it back in.
And then
came back with pizza.
And you threw my pizza.
Yep.
And now we're going to put it on the dyno again. So this is all the fruit on the dyno.
All the fruit, all the ethanol, so E85 as well.
Okay.
I shouldn't say nervous because I know what's in it. So I'm probably not that nervous, but at the same time, you know.
So if these guys wanted to guess what power it was going to make, now would be the time to do it in the comments, yeah?
Now's the time.
All right.
GDX 3582 Gen 2, as much boost as we can put in it with 1050cc injectors. We've got all the fuel pumps in the world. They're never going to run out. We still do have stock FG Series 2 crank rods, pistons, valves, camshafts. It's all the supporting mod stuff. So have a guess at that.
Sounds like we should go.
Mate, it's been a long road, but it has been a long road, so I just want to get it on. We'll strap it nice and tight. We'll get everything perfect. We'll just do all of the ethanol tuning stuff. We'll ramp up and up and up. Mm-hmm. Then we'll go straight into the power runs and give it hell.
All right, what do you reckon it's going to make? Put the comments down there.
Because we've gone from petrol to E85,
yep.
I've gone into my main setup. It's already tuned on petrol. So basically, I'm not doing a full retune on this thing. Now I'm just changing the fuel type to an ethanol petrol blend.
Okay.
And by doing that, the engine management system will know that, okay, so if I type in that we've got E85, E70, E whatever, the engine management system will add the extra amount of volume required in order to meet my target air-fuel ratio table. So this is not flex fueling.
Yep.
I do want to flex fuel this car, but that's probably going to be later on because we're just running out of time today. But the idea of this is that I can change from petrol to ethanol, not a full retune. I'm not rescaling injectors. I'm not adding a percentage of fuel overall. I'm changing the type of fuel that the ECU knows is going through the fuel injector.
So it's just a switch, basically.
Yeah, if we think about it like that. Yep. So the ECU used to know that it had petrol. Now it has ethanol. It knows that it needs to add a percentage more by volume in to get the same target air-fuel ratios. So by changing this number, I should just be able to start it. All my mixtures will be the same, and we can just start testing. Then we'll put ignition timing in it. Then we'll put boost in it. And then that's it.
And then hopefully we won't go bang.
Nothing bad will happen. Ignition on. She's away. Well, first things first, we'll do the down low stuff and just go through and do the boring stuff and load up and up and up and make sure our mixtures look good.
Go.
In, across, like before, up to 4th gear. Just got another error on the dash telling me that a door is ajar, so I'll just get rid of that because we'll leave the doors hanging, whatever.
It's a bit louder in here than it was before.
The exhaust is noticeably louder.
Yeah.
And I'll just flick it into neutral. Listen to this. So it changed from like the guy wearing that hat style of car to like a proper Jap style. The noise.
A guy with a flat rim wearing.
Yeah. Pretty much. The noise changed, and it really now does sound.
The exhaust changed, but the induction noise has changed. So where you're nodding your head at me there, is that you're looking at the AFR and it seems to be right? Is that?
I'm looking at my target air-fuel ratio, my actual air-fuel ratio, and then the amount of work, the short-term fuel trim, the amount of work that the engine management system's doing to achieve that target. And because we've told it we're on the different fuel now, the short-term fuel trims are doing under 5% either way, a couple of percent here and there to fix up the tune, which would have been there on the petrol as well. Right. So we're very, very similar.
So that's an acceptable amount of work as a tuner, yeah?
Absolutely, yep,
Yeah.
for sure. We've also got our long-term fuel trims that whenever our short terms exceed a preset amount, I set it at 3%, it then goes into our long-term trims and puts a long-term table in so that if we're miles out, in another table in the background, it'll keep either adding or removing fuel in order to always meet our target
And it then learns
every go.
so that when we drive this for 1,000 kilometres or more, it'll get better and better.
Spot on.
Yeah.
There's no point having to learn at the same spot over and over every time. Like if it's 20% in one area, you don't want it to have to learn that 20% every time.
Yes.
So it just gets there and says, oh, here's the correction applied there. You can go into the software whenever you want and just apply that to the whole map. And then that applies to the map. All your trims go back to 0 and then you start again.
Okay.
So handy to know. As a tuner, it's really handy to know because you send a car out on the road, when it comes back a day, a week, a year later, you can have a look at what those trims have been doing and either pat yourself on the back or think, oh, I had a bit of a shocker that day. Mate, I think I want to flick it over to the dyno runs and we'll give it a zing up and
Get into the exciting stuff.
see what's there.
Let's
We'll,
go.
all right. Go. All right. Can we round it to 480 to say 480 kilowatts?
I think we can say 480 kilowatts.
479.4 kilowatts or 642 horsepower at the wheels. Let's call it 480 kilowatts or 650 horsepower because, you know.
In a...
Or do you want to give me 20 kilowatts and I can just say
500
500 kilowatts?
in a family sedan.
You know what the beauty of that is? The aircon's still ticking away. Probably should have turned the radio. The radio's still just ticking away. Uneventful.
That's awesome. So is that, you happy with that? Do you think?
I am. I'm pretty happy with it. You might point out here, we've got a little bit of a funny area here where there's a little bit of a hump and then we come back on.
Yes.
I'm trying to be as reasonable as I can with the boost control, but being an internally gated wastegate, I'm struggling a little bit to bypass enough to keep the boost down. I'm using the electronic throttle in order to keep the boost at a reasonable level down there on the stock piston and stock rod.
Okay.
I don't want it to make a ton, it sounds weird, but I don't want it to make as much power as it can there at peak torque because that's when stuff goes very bad.
Gearbox stuff.
Engine stuff,
Engine stuff.
gearbox stuff. So what I've done is tried to limit the power there, but then feed it in up the top again.
So you're actually getting the ECU to look at the boost and close the throttle.
Yeah, not a conventional thing to do, but when we've got a tiny wastegate,
Yeah.
I don't have much control of the boost pressures. So I've set up a 3D table of RPM and manifold pressure, and then a maximum drive-by-wire throttle angle based on that. So that essentially what's going to happen is, if it comes up and it gets to 4,500 RPM and the boost is going off its head, I can just shut the throttle. So then that'll bring the boost back down under control, and then just the throttle will kind of hover to achieve whatever target boost I want.
And that's one of the advantages of having a drive-by-wire throttle.
Well, without it,
You wouldn't do it. You couldn't do it.
there would be more mechanical work going on.
Yeah,
So
right.
this is by no means a replacement for wastegates or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in a bind, you've got to do what you got to do, and this is the way that we could control the boost on this car.
Cool.
Mate, 480 kilowatts.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, and I know today that everyone's got huge power, but 650 horsepower at the wheels, it's definitely enough to get to work and back, and at least to get to the shops. Easy.
Let's pick up some milk.
Pick up some milk. Interesting towing the boat with this amount. I think at the boat ramp they probably wouldn't have seen this much power for a while.
So I remember back when we started this, there was a list of things that you said you wanted to do with this car.
I remember back then, that was over 200 kilowatts ago.
Yeah, which is about half. Isn't it? Half? We've doubled it.
We've more than doubled it.
Wow. So what you wanted to do is what? You still wanted to be able to daily drive it.
Yeah, most importantly,
Yep.
because I wouldn't want to spend all this money and then just not be able to use it and have to get another daily.
Daily drive it, do a bit of towing.
Yep, tow the boat, tow a box trailer full of dirt.
Yep, go on a bit of a road trip.
Yeah, because you should be able to, like a car like this, power windows, aircon, cruise control, like want to go on a trip down the coast or
Well, you
something.
see, we could have done all that with the stock car. The main thing is you really wanted to, what was the word? Not be embarrassed by your mates at the drags.
Well, when you've got a family sedan, there's baby seats in the back more often than not. Like, yeah, it's a bit embarrassing to take out a turbo 6-cylinder that doesn't go that good.
Right, so if we want to be able to do all of those things, it sounds like we've got one more episode to make.
Mate, keen as. What are we going to do?
So I reckon next week we go for a road trip.
Perfect.
We take a trailer
Yep.
and we go to the drags.
I'm most keen about the drags because this is it.
We'll see you next week then.
And there's his pizza again.